Good evening, Tottenham fans. Tim Sherwood has been on Sky Sports talking about Igor Tudor and talking about why he can only fail. He's talking a lot of nonsense about him not being able to be respected, or there's no reason for him to take this job. There's only a downside to it. I think he sounds very bitter, in my opinion. And I think he's very contradictory and hypocritical in what he was saying. So let me just go through what he was saying. And it's quite frustrating that a guy that played for Tottenham, managed Tottenham, still doesn't understand the Tottenham fans and how we actually really do feel. And I don't think he's understood the situation very well either. But that's just my opinion. Maybe other people might think differently. But let's just look into a little few things that he said on Sky Sports just yesterday. So he said, it's going to be difficult. He has no knowledge of the Premier League. Now, first off, the first thing he said was nonsense, in my opinion, because of course, there's been many a time where managers have come in and had no knowledge of the Premier League and done very well. And just for a quick example of just a few, and there's a lot more than this, there is Arne Slot, Antonio Conte, Pep Guardiola, Arsene Wenger, Jose Mourinho, Carlo Ancelotti, and Claudio Ranieri. And not the Claudio Ranieri that won for Leicester City. He also, when he first came to Premier League, he was with Chelsea and he done very well with them, finishing second. Obviously, he went on to win the Premier League with Leicester as well. But that's not a bad list of managers that never managed in the Premier League before, but all of a sudden done very, very well. So knowledge of the Premier League is not essential. Sometimes if you come into a new league, you can actually excel because you're an unknown. You can bring new ideas and new philosophies and new ways of training that might scupper the Premier League managers now and catch them off guard. So, yeah, of course, it's always going to be difficult to manage in the best league in the world. But to say not having any knowledge of the Premier League is a false statement, in my opinion, because it does not matter. Football is football, in my opinion. And he says, apart from the money, what is the upside for him? So, again, the upside for him would be that he could open doors. He could open doors for other jobs, especially if he came into Spurs now and done exceptionally well. Now, I'm not saying he will. Nobody knows until it actually happens. But if, let's say he came in the door, he ruffled a few feathers. He got the boys really playing for him and playing well. And he won, let's say, 9 out of 12 games. And he obviously kept us up, but also took us really high up in the league. If that happened, he could open many doors, maybe even get another job in the Premier League. And that's a big thing for Croatian managers managing in the Premier League. It doesn't happen often. So if he could open doors for himself, he's motivated enough to do well at this job. So that whole statement, just looking at it now, is going to be difficult, no Premier League knowledge. And apart from money, what's the upside for him? There's a lot of upside for him to do well. So there's a lot of motivation, in my opinion. So what else did Tim Sherwood go on to say? Now, he said, would you want your fingerprints all over Tottenham getting relegated from the Premier League? Again, this guy was brought in to not get us relegated from the Premier League. And I don't think he would have took the job if he didn't think he could keep us up. He says, I'll go back to it. Thomas Frank would still be here if it wasn't for the toxic nature of the fans. What are you talking about, Tim? It wasn't. Thomas Frank won 2 games out of 17, 2 wins out of 17. And we would have got relegated. I'll tell you now, we would have got relegated if we kept him. Of course, we're going to be toxic. There was 0 signs of improvement. In fact, we were getting worse, in my opinion. So, of course, the fans are going to get toxic. So I don't think it was just the fans that was the reason for Frank to lose his job. I think Thomas Frank was going to lose his job anyway, because the board could see that he was heading towards a massive relegation battle. And I think he would have got us relegated. So I don't blame the fans for 1 second, and I don't think Thomas Frank would have had his job anyway, regardless. And he said, I could totally understand the disgruntlement of fans because they are not getting the results. So he contradicted himself straight away, because he said the fans are the reason why he lost the job. And then he said, I can understand why the fans did it. If you can understand why the fans did it, then you understand that the board would have sacked him anyway. Understand what you're saying, Tim. No, understand, honestly. See, he's speaking, but not saying anything, if that makes sense. Now, what else did he go on to say? I heard people say they're sleepwalking into the Championship. I think they'll have enough with even with the injuries, to get out of it. But he will get no credit for that. So what he's basically saying there is, if he keeps Tottenham up, Tottenham fans wouldn't give him credit. I think he truly believes that Thomas Frank would have kept Tottenham up. I don't think many Tottenham fans do believe that. And I do believe that he will get credit if he keeps Tottenham up. I really do. I will give him huge credit if he keeps us up, especially to keep us up. He needs to get, I'd say, 4 to 5 victories. If he gets 4 to 5 victories out of those 12 games, then he has done a good job and he deserves credit, because the turmoil we're in at the moment, with the amount of injuries that we've got, if he keeps us up with only 12 fit first teamers playing, and obviously coming to the Premier League for the first time, of course he's going to get huge credit from the fans. I think he would anyway. He said the downside is so great he can only fail. He's getting no credit for keeping Tottenham in the league. Like, he's basically saying that he's in a lose-lose situation. I don't think he's in a lose-lose situation whatsoever. I think he could really make a name for himself in the Premier League, and it could open the door to get another Premier League job, which would be his dream, I'd reckon. I reckon even coming to Spurs would be a really big dream for him. I know he managed a massive club in Juventus as well, but I think he wants to test himself. This guy was meant to come in to improve teams and improve players and improve people in the short term. And he's only going to be here for a short term. So if he can come in and hit the ground running and really improve everything really fast and end up doing a really good job, but then he moves on in the summer, I think most fans would give him credit and most fans would be really happy with that. Now, this is why I think Tim Sherwood's a little bit contradictory with what I just said. So remember everything that Tim Sherwood just said earlier in the video. And this is what he said before Igor got the job. So he said, it was an honor for me to manage that football club, and it would be an honor for me to manage them again. I can do the job. I have proved that I can do the job. What they can't do is make a mistake with this appointment. So do you think Tim Sherwood sounds a little bit bitter now that Igor got the job over him, when he's basically twerking for the job and he didn't get it? And he's saying, I've proved I could do the job. I can do the job. And now he's trying to make out that Spurs have probably made a mistake. Now he's saying that there's no upside to taking the job. I heard him on Sky Sports saying it myself. So he said, what's the upside? And then Paul Merson said, well, about 40 grand a week, which made me laugh, to be honest. But again, see, Tim Sherwood was telling us all how there's no upside and he can only fail. But before Igor got promoted, into the Tottenham management, interim management, Tim Sherwood was twerking for the job. So now you're telling me that, you know what I mean? So it's hypocritical. So for me, at the end of the day, this guy has been brought in. He's been brought in to do one thing only, and keep us up. I've heard a lot of good things about him recently as well. I did a video on him, but it was a raw video. It was like stuff I've just heard about him, and I did quite a lot of research into him, but I've done even more since. And I watched a video with Billy T and Luke from The Whistleblower. It's a really good channel. Please check that out. And they were speaking to a Croatian expert, and they were telling us a lot about this guy. And it's got me more excited. So once you finish watching this, go over to The Whistleblower and check that out, because it was a really good watch. And he's basically telling us that every club that he's gone into, he's improved them massively in the short term, but after time, he's fallen out with the club and left, which is perfect for us at the moment, because we don't need him for long term. We need him for now, get us out of trouble, maybe climb up the league a little bit more. The only thing I'll be concerned about is he's never had knockout phase competition in the Champions League. But again, I don't think he was brought in to do anything in the Champions League. I don't even think Spurs are even looking at that anymore to try and win it or whatever. We've already got the last 16 sorted. He's going to be getting 2 games at least in the Champions League. If he doesn't get through, he doesn't get through. The main purpose for him coming is to keep us into the Premier League. And if he can do that, brilliant. And you know what? His first game is against Arsenal. If he can get a result against Arsenal, even a draw, I think the fans would take to him straight away. I think the fans would be buzzing. 1, because we'll be getting points on the board, and 2, because we'll be halting their Premier League charge. So this guy will automatically become a cult hero for keeping us up, stopping Arsenal from winning the league, and doing what he can to keep us up. So let me know in the comments what you thought of Tim Sherwood's comments today. Do you think he's been a bit hypocritical? Do you think he's been a bit bitter? Do you agree with anything he said? Because I certainly don't. Thank you for watching. and come on, you Spurs.